In January of this past year, we kind of melded the two businesses together. We still kind of operate a little bit separately. Rachel and I will specialize more in like more severe aggression or separation anxiety, things that might need to be run out of our homes. We'll take those cases at our house as opposed to in the facility. We've worked with Blaine Kennels for many years before we even started Follow Me Dogs. They run a very structured dog daycare. It's very unique to this area, to the Midwest, I would say for sure. Basically not a free-for-all, dogs running around playing all day. It's more structure throughout the day. So a lot of dogs that we were personally working with could use dog socialization, and it was a great place for us to refer people to go to so that those dogs would get like appropriate socialization instead of having them go over their threshold. So anyway, we've known Thomas, who owns it, for a very long time, and through a mix of the way the universe works, I ended up not working. I used to do IT on the side and do full-time dog stuff, and Thomas had me come on board. Rachel had already worked there for a little bit, so I knew that it was cool from the inside. Anyway, so we've been there for a while. Again, we specialize in dogs that have a harder time, especially dogs that have a hard time in a shelter environment. Rachel and I have been in rescue. I've been in rescue for 15 years and sucked her in. And then we moved to helping dogs from a different side, so trying to keep them in their homes. But then also helping rescues with dogs. It's just a different perspective. It's, you know, how they have successful placement versus how you work with one specific owner. The owner's going to change with rescue dogs. So we have a soft spot in our hearts for shelter dogs and dogs that are showing horribly in a kennel. We're here today to go over the magic of using a treadmill for a dog. We use them at Blaine Kennels and in our homes daily. Every dog in our dog, what we call daycare or day program, every dog's treadmill trained. Most of the dogs that board at the facility are also treadmill trained. And that is just because it's a huge benefit. We're basically allowing dogs to drain energy mentally instead of physically burning energy. It's just a different perspective. So a dog's gonna go on a treadmill, they're not gonna go on there and run the whole time. That is not what we're doing. We're asking them to slow down. The way that dogs work is if you slow down their body, you will slow down their mind. Very similar to humans. That's why people that have like anxiety are fidgety, they move fast. Slowing them down for like yoga, things like that is gonna help someone recenter themselves. Same thing for dogs. So what we're asking them to do is to walk ridiculously slow on a treadmill. It actually will get them almost into like a meditative state. We have dogs at the kennels that will come and walk 2 hours a day, easy. We have dogs that will go on without a leash. They love to go on there. They'll perhaps go on there and then eat afterwards, so it's like a job for them. We'll use other tools as well, which we brought a couple just to show you. If you guys are interested, we're happy to donate you guys a few of these. These are what we call weight vests. It's basically, X-Dog makes them, I think they call them, they have a different name for them now. It's some fancy name that's not weight vest, but it's like health vest or something. They're basically canvas vests with little pouches that you fill with sand or BBs, whatever you want to do to like make it heavier. Some of the newer ones now, you can even, there's like cooling packs you can put inside of them. They're pretty fancy. We don't have the ones that are that fancy, but these are a little bit older. They have multiple sizes, multiple weights, so depending on the dog. What this does is it also engages their mind in another way. So what you have is a dog that's used to the treadmill. You can throw this on them and change it up, or you can put a weight vest on them to begin, to just have them think about something else other than the treadmill. I would say it's a lot like if you're going on a hike versus if you're going on a hike with a backpack. It's the same thing, but you're just paying attention to how your weight's distributed, your feet, you're just more present in your body instead of what's going on the outside. You're just paying a little bit more attention to how things feel, which is really great to do for dogs that are having a hard time mentally. We do the same thing with boots. Put a boot on one foot, all feet. We will put on visual blocks for them, things called calming caps. If you guys have ever seen those for undershirt makes them. It's basically like a mesh that goes over their eyes. They can still see, but it's very limited. Dogs that are very visual, and I know Snee will know, and Megan will be familiar with this. I'm not familiar with the rest of you to say, but it's pretty easy to tell when a dog is very visual. They're just always scanning, and a lot of dogs are going to get like that when they're in a kennel situation, because that's kind of all they have to do, and they're going to obsess. So could be huge and helpful here to just take away the eyes or limit the eyes. That forces them to use their other senses. When dogs are born, the first thing that happens is their nose opens, then their eyes, and then their ears, in that order. So we prefer dogs to use their nose first. Nose takes up 60% of their brain when they're using it. It's more calming for them. They trust it more. Dogs in America do not use their nose very often because Americans talk to dogs. Dogs don't speak English, they don't speak any language, so when we talk to them, we're forcing them to use a sense that they trust the least. So we're forcing dogs to use their ears first. We say hi to the dog, and we approach the dog. We put pressure on the dog with space, as opposed to letting them naturally use their nose. We're also really well known to just stick our hand and force them, which really, they smelled me, when I was coming in this door, right? I don't need to put my hand in their face. It's just a bad habit that has come about. They can certainly smell you. All you're doing is putting pressure on the dog. You're taking up space for them. And every dog has personal, social, they have different amounts of space. And every dog is gonna be a little different. We have a dog, Ace, his social space, or his personal space, is what a normal dog's social space would be. Meaning, this is too much for him still. To Rachel, if a dog's in that, that's still considered his personal space. He does not like dogs. If you're further out than that, that's cool, that can be social for him. But dogs that come closer, for him, that's just too much for him. And a lot of dogs are gonna be unique that way. So what we're forcing a dog to do then, if we take away their eyes, is we're helping them use their nose, which is gonna help them calm down. Anytime a dog's using their nose, a dog is not going to sniff you and bite you at the same time, right? So if a dog is using their nose naturally, we don't want them pushing it on you, right? That's rude. If a dog was doing that to another dog, the other dog would not like that at all. If a dog was just hitting them with their nose, that's rude. But sniffing, gently sniffing, is totally natural. And so what we're doing by taking away the eyes is we're just forcing them to use their nose. They're still gonna use their ears, obviously. They're in a place where there's noise. That's, we could certainly we have what we call happy hoodies. They're used in grooming. It's just like kind of like an earmuff, but like, the earmuff bands that like women wear, but smaller and more stretchy. And what you do is you tuck their ears in so that it folds and it covers, and it's used for grooming so that like when you're like blow drying a dog, it's not so loud for them. We'll use the same thing in training a lot for dogs. What it also does is the way a dog positions their ears, it helps how they're feeling. You'll see us a lot with dogs that have a lot of wrinkles in their head. Just take our fingertips and just stretch them out a little bit. And that's just helping them for a second, kind of just relax a little bit. Dogs that are really forward, their weight is forward, their ears are on alert more. If we push their ears back, it can help them go back a little bit, which is just mentally helping them go back a little bit. So we'll do the same thing, put a happy hoodie on a dog while they're on a treadmill, just to try and help them use their nose. And when a dog's stressed, they're not gonna use their nose right away, and that's the best way how you can tell how they're feeling. And we'll go over what it looks like for a dog on a treadmill. There's a lot to a treadmill. I feel like we could go on and on for generally, working a dog on a treadmill is its own art within itself. How their feet are on the treadmill. At first, they're gonna be really splayed. They're gonna be nervous. It's really not normal for a dog to have the ground move, right? Like, they do not understand that at all. So their feet are gonna be very splayed. Their toes are gonna be spread. That's all right. They're gonna be going fast, or sometimes they'll freeze. They won't walk at all. These are all stages of how they're feeling on the treadmill, and we work through those with them. It's important that we work through them with them. If we put a dog on the treadmill and we cannot follow through with them staying on that treadmill no matter what happens, there's no point to put them on. Skip that dog. The dog fleeing off, going into flight off of a treadmill and having that be what they associate that with is way more work to ever to get them to go back on it, right? That's how they're gonna associate that. They don't have memories like people, right? But they do have associations. So if they felt scared and left like that, that is what it represents to them. So we always have to have a plan and assess the dog. And I would recommend having a few people that are really well versed with the treadmill and like feeling out dogs and knowing them well, probably ones that like run play groups, right? They like know how to read a dog's energy. Pick dogs that are gonna go on a treadmill and make sure they're comfortable, and then anyone else afterwards that's familiar with treadmill could work them. But we wanna make sure that if it goes awry and the dog is super freaked out, that we have someone that's gonna stay calm with them and get them through it. They don't have to be perfect at the end, we just want them to be better. We just don't want it to be a bad experience for them. And some dogs will surprise you. We have some dogs where I'm like, this dog is gonna be terrified, and they're just like immediately like, who cares? They don't care at all. And then other dogs will be like, they'll be great, and then they're like, woo, and they'll start, jumping or whatever it is. You have to ride it out with them, and you have to feel okay about it. That's really important. If you do not feel good about a dog on a treadmill, don't put them on there. If it doesn't sit right with you, we say the same thing with training. You should always do a training style that feels good for you. If it doesn't feel good for you, then there's a million other ways to do things. There's nothing wrong with that. How you feel is how the dog is gonna feel about it. Your energy is what they read. So if you feel like this is dumb, I don't like this, the dog's gonna hate this, that is exactly what's going to happen. The dog will hate it, the dog will not like it. So there's no point. Just do something else. Nothing wrong with that. So what we'll do, I think, is we'll pick a couple dogs and we'll get them on there. I'd like to find one that's gonna be terrified and just kind of give you an idea what it looks like. We always try and do this with owners when we've treadmill trained dogs, because even though they're on it with us for like a month in a board and train, at their house with a dog, when one thing's new, everything's new. So when this is a new treadmill, doesn't even matter, it's the same kind, doesn't matter, it is gonna be new. And if that person has the dog on there and the dog's like, what is this? And they're like, oh no, the dog is gonna be like, I don't wanna go on the treadmill. Of course they are. You're feeling weird about it. So I always want everyone to see what it looks like for a dog to freak out on a treadmill, so that they can see that what happens at the end of that. When you stick with it and you stay calm, the dog is gonna be fine. No one's gonna hurt the dog. They're going really slow. We're not gonna just like tie them to a treadmill and put it on really fast, right? That's not what we're going for here. There's nothing wrong, by the way, with going a little fast on a treadmill. Some dogs actually need to go fast first. Not fast like, sprinting. But if you think of, we always kind of work at like 0.5 to 1 mile per hour. Some dogs with it going 0.5, which is like the default on the dog pacers, is too slow. It's weirding them out too much. They need to just walk to understand the ground's moving, and then be like, okay, now I can slow down. But they need to understand what's happening and what we want from them. Some dogs are naturally with their breed. They need to just go faster. When we have working breed dogs, they want to do a little bit of a trot first. It's just important that we slow them down at the end. If we're getting them worked up, their body's moving fast, right? That means their mind's moving faster. And then we go put them in a kennel. The minute you shut the kennel door, you're putting pause on how they're feeling. So they're just gonna stay like that in there. And then they're in a smaller space, and other dogs are adding to the excitement, and it's just gonna go haywire, right? We don't wanna, no one's gonna die from it, right? But it's just not the state of mind we're looking for. And this is why at the kennels, I don't do barking dogs. I don't think any of us that work there do. It's not a thing we like to have, and it is quiet there. And the reason it is if a dog is barking, we'll do something to help them. We're gonna do treadmill, a walk, whatever it is. We're able to do that, right? And it's also important that we're ending things how we want them to begin next time. So I don't want a dog to rush out the kennel and jump all over me, right? I want them to come out slowly and us to have like a nice, calm experience. So I need to end it that way. Because when I shut the door, that's how they're gonna stay. Of course, things can, add excitement later, of course. But I want to show them how I want it to start next time, every time you're doing it. And I know it's not the easiest thing in an environment when you have a lot of dogs and you're like, you feel the pressure of hurrying. But what I've really found, and when we first went through this, one of our mentors came out from Arizona. He worked with us for a week at a rescue property that we were living on. And we had, 18 dogs. 16 or 18 dogs, right? And these are dogs that like were on youth lists for legit reasons, okay? So not just your average dogs, but like dogs that have bit someone, bit a dog, super dog aggressive, you know, actual issues that they really needed to work with. And I was like, we can do this. And then I was like, we need help. So we had a trainer come out and stay with us for a week, Lynn, and he is amazing. He's basically a dog, like in a human body. He came out and worked with us, and he was like, slow down. And I was like, they need to go outside, you know? And what we really found was the more we slow down, we actually got more accomplished, because the dogs, if I came at them slow, it's hard at first, but when everyone was on board with doing it, they would naturally slow down. So after I got them outside, I was doing a lot less of like, stop yanking me all over the place, you know, and we could do more with our time outside instead of just getting there. What would go haywire is when someone would come in and then rush, because then they would all go back. And I'd be like, we can't do that, you know, and you gotta control the environment a little bit more. But it's just really important that, like, in your moment with the dog, you can have a completely different association with that dog, and they'll have a different association with you than they're gonna have the next person. They're not dumb, right? And if you have expectations when you come up to this dog, you're not gonna jump on me, we're gonna go slow, I'm gonna be patient with you. They're gonna like that, and it doesn't matter, in that moment, they're having a better time with you, right? Someone else can come in and rush and that's fine, but they're gonna remember and they're gonna enjoy the time with you more. So and that's all you can really control, is yourself. So we'll, I think, well first, before we even get started, do you guys have questions?
I mean, I'll have like a bunch of questions that I think will be like important.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you wanna like chat after like people get going, or like if they're gonna.
Yeah, or maybe as it's going.
Yeah.
The only time I would say if like a dog's freaking out, whoever's handling him, me or Rachel, the other person will probably talk, just because it's really important that we like keep ourselves focused and like in the moment. We brought a few slip leads. One of the things that we will recommend is just having a good understanding of leash pressure with dogs. The way that we're using the slip, and the reason we'll use a slip lead, when it's on a dog, I want it as high up on the neck as possible. This is the most sensitive part of their body, mainly because no collars are up there. So average Joe Schmo walking their dog isn't just letting a dog pull all the time way up high in their neck. It's lower. It's also the strongest part of their body right here, right? This and their chest, they can pull really hard. So we're gonna work the more sensitive part, but it's important that we are sensitive. We don't go up high on their neck and start yanking a dog around, right? We also, if you do that, they're just gonna get desensitized. That's why lower is already ruined. We get, no matter what tool you use for a dog, it can be a halty, it can be a harness, it can be a slip lead, it can be a prong collar, it can be anything. If you let a dog pull, if they pull and you go, they're gonna get desensitized to that. They're going, of course, why would they pull? That means go to them. That means I get to go now. This pressure means I go. So what we have to show them is that when they put pressure, I'm not going anywhere. And I'm not giving to the pressure, right? If they're gonna pull, I'm just like a dead tree. I'm just standing here, or maybe a live tree. A tree in general. I have roots in the ground and I'm not going anywhere. Then they learn that doesn't work. If they're tied to a tree, no dog is at the end gonna pull unless they're like trying to get like a squirrel, right? They're gonna hit it and go back because it's not giving. When you give, they're going to keep trying because there's give there. And they're moving. So when you stop that, they're gonna start saying, the pressure stops when I come back to you. And we wanna be a pressure-free zone for a dog. That's safety to them. Dogs communicate and work in pressure. When they come up to each other, that means we're gonna start engaging. When you stay away, if they turn away, that says I'm not engaging. So when we're communicating with pressure with dogs, they're gonna understand it because that's how they talk to each other. That's how they're gonna work each other. Body language and pressure. Energy. So for me, I want a dog to know that there's no pressure when you're here. I'm never gonna have you here and have this leash tight. That's super confusing to them, right? I'm not communicating anything if I'm just holding the leash tight while they're here, other than I'm probably nervous for some reason, which is gonna make the dog be nervous because they're like, what are you communicating to me? Why is there pressure right now? So we always wanna have it loose when they're by us, and the only time we wanna give pressure is when we're communicating. We don't just hold it. I wanna be like, come to the left, come to the right, sit. Whatever it is, I'm telling them something. I'm not just holding it because I'm used to having a tight leash, which is very common with people, right? They're like wrapping their whole hand, you know, they're like super prepared for this, but that energy is having the dog super prepared for this, which isn't the case, right? Just because we're going on a walk doesn't mean something horrible is going to happen. It probably happened yesterday, right? But right now it's not happening. But if we come out with that energy, they're like, what, you know, like what are we going to encounter today? We don't want to have that for them.
Yeah.
We want them to have a good walk.
That, or it's just a game of like who's stronger, right?
Exactly.
Like the dog's pulling, so you're like, I'm gonna hold them, and then like that's not fun,
Yeah.
right? Like that's not fun for anybody. We're just
Well, the
all
thing
day
is,
long.
the more sensitive you get a dog, the more they're going to react sensitive. And that's the biggest key, and I learned it the hard way with my own dog. He's super strong. So every time I'd be like, here we go, man. And he would go to like run, and I'd be like, ugh, and I'd be like ready to hold the leash. But when I started giving him the leash when he wanted to go, he started slowing down before he hit the end of it. Because that pressure of like adding the energy to what was happening was taken away. I'm still prepared, right? Because he's a huge, strong dog. And it's a rabbit or whatever it is. But it's way less intense when I'm not like popping him or like moving him back or adding any energy to that. I'm like, go ahead. And he's like, whoa. Like, where is all that frustration or whatever is coming through the leash? So we'll go over a little bit of the leash in general with dogs, just because when they're on the treadmill, we have to guide them, right? We have to keep them on the treadmill. We don't want them going off the left, off the right, over the front. And the way we're gonna do that is they're attached to a leash. So it's important that we're communicating with the leash to them so that they have clear expectations of what we want, right? If you go to your job, your first day, and no one greets you, and no one shows you the door, and no one tells you where to put your stuff, or where you're gonna sit, or who your manager is, you're super stressed and you don't know what to do, right? Now imagine that's happening and like you're on one of those walkways in the airport and the floor is moving, right? And you don't know that even happens, what that means. You're going forward, what do you do? When a dog's on a treadmill, we have to be super clear with them because we want to guide them through it. We want it to be a good experience and we want to show them that we can be there to help them, right? So the only way we can do that is with the leash. Talking to them means nothing. They don't speak the English. They don't speak any language that we're saying. It's just noise to them. And the only time you'll hear us talking to dogs, right, is like when we're encouraging them. And really, how we feel, they feel it, right? But you can like send your energy out with some words, right? You see it all the time. People are like, feel bad for dogs, so they'll talk like, it's okay, or, that's pushing that energy out to them. So we're gonna encourage dogs. If they're a little nervous, we're good boy, we're gonna let them know like they're doing a good job for sure. But having it be clear to them that I want them to stay in the middle of the treadmill, we're gonna use a leash for that. So you'll see, we'll show you a little bit before we even get on the treadmill. We're not gonna introduce a dog to a slip lead on the treadmill, right? That's way too much. We wanna be fair. We want them to understand what the slip lead is, what the pressure means, and then put them on. It's not anything that's gonna take a really long time. They just need to understand. They can be pulling you still, I don't care about that, right? That's like for good walk goals, whole different story. But I want them to understand that when I put pressure this way, I want them to come this way. So I'm just gonna do it a little bit for the dog to get used to that feeling on their neck first. Then we can introduce them to get something else new. We just don't wanna do it all at the same time. Not the end of the world, but it's just, we're trying to be fair. We wanna be fair to the dog. To us, you're never gonna wanna have the slip lead if Rachel is the dog, and this is her head, and this is her body, right? I don't ever wanna just pull this way. This is going down her spine, and all it's doing is adding frustration to her body. It's not telling her anything other than like, this sucks right now. What I wanna do is either go straight up to have her stop, or show her, go to the right, go to the left. And you'll see that with dogs, we're always going to, a lot of what you're gonna be doing is moving you. So dogs really good at getting in front of you and having this go down their spine, because that's how their leash usually is, right, when they're walking with anybody. So what we're gonna start doing is moving ourselves, right? So if Rachel's ahead of me there and she's pulling, I'll go this way. That way I can pull her to the right, or I'll go to the left. So you're just gonna be moving your body a whole lot more than you're used to. It's a lot easier than like trying to reel them in like a fishing line back behind you. It's also more clear to them. When there's pressure, pulling them to a direction so that they can turn their body. They're like, oh. And when I start cupping this way, the pressure stops. That's where you want me to go. They'll pick it up really fast. It's super simple for them. It's why we use them a lot. It's just important that we're gentle, because otherwise they're gonna match you and be not gentle, and then that's not fun for anybody. So, let's get a couple dogs.
Could we also maybe get some just like good treats?
It's the